Hello, nerds of the universe, and welcome to Nerd Talk. So I just watched Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2, Book of Boba Fett, Season 1, Episode 6. And this was the greatest thing I've seen in a very long time from Star Wars. So great, in fact, that as soon as I was finished watching it, I came down here and decided to start recording. No script, no thoughts being written down. I'm just going to blabber, and hopefully I can edit this video well enough so that some clear thoughts get through the fog here. So, I'm just going to start off. I'm going from memory here on what I thought of this episode because there is a lot to unpack. So spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen this episode yet. First things first, this is yet another episode of the Book of Boba Fett that Boba Fett was barely involved in, which for some reason has made these last two episodes the best episodes in the season by far. I don't know what that says about what Jon Favreau and the team has done to Boba Fett, but I'm glad to see The Mandalorian. And one of my predictions from my previous Book of Boba Fett theory has come true. Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker have met, and seeing these two interact was just incredible, and I want more. They almost touched on it when Ahsoka said to Luke that he was just like his father. That really hit home for me, and I got a lot of Clone Wars vibes. Of course, I also got a lot of Empire Strikes Back vibes with Luke talking to Grogu and comparing him to Yoda. Now, I was so excited last episode when I heard that Mando was going to try and see Grogu again, because I've been waiting to see Grogu for so long. I miss that cute little guy. And we finally got to see Grogu hanging out with Luke, training just like Luke did with Master Yoda from Empire Strikes Back. And I have to say, they really improved Luke Skywalker. His voice is spot on, but it always was, but his face looks a lot more natural. It's not as chubby, it looks more fleshed out, and his eyes aren't just floating around in the abyss. They're darting around, they're locking on, making eye contact. Looks really good. There was a little bit of trouble with his lips a few times when he was speaking, but most of the time you couldn't even notice it. And I think the lips were kind of hard for them, which is why they had him speaking off-screen most of the time. But hey, if it works, it works. And of course the heartbreaking scene where Mando wants to go see Grogu, he wants to give him the armor, but Ahsoka tells him that it'll make it harder for Grogu, and Mando knows that. And you can even hear when Mando says that he's come this far, you can really hear him cracking in his voice. You can hear the emotion. He really misses him, but he can't. He knows that he can't. So he gives the armor to Ahsoka, and she passes it on to Luke. And then, of course, we get to the last scene of the Book of Boba Fett, where Luke produces the armor for Grogu, given to him by Mando, and Yoda's frickin' lightsaber. It has been so long since I've seen Yoda's lightsaber, and I'm just so excited to see it. And in a Darth Vader comic, it was destroyed, so they seem to be retconning the fate of Yoda's lightsaber. But I am so glad that it's back. But that's the big question, isn't it? Which one will Grogu choose? Will Grogu choose the Mandalorian armor and go back to Mando? Or will he choose the lightsaber and stay with Luke Skywalker? My prediction is that he will go with the Mandalorian. And I say this for a few reasons. One, even though Grogu did make a lot of progress in his training session with Luke, we can see that very clearly, he doesn't seem to be too interested. And of course, you could chalk that up to him being a child, but he does seem to be very distracted most of the time. Secondly, Luke does say to Grogu that if he chooses to stay with him, he'll never see Mando again, and I don't think Grogu can handle that. Also, Luke says that Grogu would be his first student and would be training under him for many years. And we know, because this is Disney, everyone, we know that Disney wants Grogu to survive, and that Lucasfilm wants Grogu to survive. And we know what happens to Luke's temple. Kylo Ren kills everyone inside and destroys the temple. And they won't let that happen to Grogu. So I have a feeling that they need to have Grogu leave Luke in order for him to survive the sequel era. Then, of course, we got Luke looking into Grogu's mind, and we got to see Grogu's experience with Order 66. 3 Jedi standing in a narrow hallway protecting Grogu, which really hits home for me that Grogu was very much an important asset to the Jedi Order. It was said by Ahsoka in Mandalorian Season 2 that he was trained under many Jedi Masters, so they must have sensed how powerful he was and were willing to protect him at all costs from Order 66. But then we see the 501st Battalion come and try and take out the Jedi and take Grogu. And what's really cool about it is the 501st here looks just like the 501st from The Revenge of the Sith. And this is very clear due to the background that this is the Jedi Temple, which means that when Anakin led the 501st into the temple, of course he went to slay some Jedi, but he sent certain clone battalions different ways to go find the other Jedi. So this is a certain battalion of clones that found Grogu and these 3 Jedi, and maybe there were even more protecting Grogu, but the clones were just too precise for the Jedi, and all 3 of them fell. And the last thing we see is the clones approaching Grogu, saying, "There he is, get him!" And then it fades to black. But did they get him? Well, that's the question. I don't think the clones did get him, because the clones weren't ordered to capture Jedi, they were ordered to kill them, relentlessly, mercilessly. So I think that vision ends because somebody saves Grogu. Somebody, maybe a Jedi, maybe a Sith. But somebody saved Grogu and he can't remember who. And I don't know why they stopped the vision there, but maybe Luke can't even figure it out. And that would be very interesting. Of course, there are a few popular candidates. Talking about the Book of Boba Fett here, I had a theory that Mace Windu would be in the Book of Boba Fett. And if Mace Windu is the one that saved Grogu, he could make a return. And that might make sense. Maybe after he fell out of the window, he went back to the Jedi Temple because he now knew what was going to happen. There's a lot of theories going around that it might have been Anakin, but I seriously don't think so. Anakin was too consumed by the dark side. I don't think he would spare Grogu. Not even for that cute little chubby green face. Ooh, don't you love him so much? But I do feel like it has to be a Force user, or some sort of Jedi, because the clones were ready to take Grogu out, so it had to be somebody powerful enough to overpower the clones. And then, we get to my personal favorite part of this episode. The return of the notorious bounty hunter known as Cad Bane. For those of you who don't know, Cad Bane is my absolute favorite bounty hunter, and I want to talk a lot about him right now. First of all, I did mention in my last Book of Boba Fett theory that he might come into the Book of Boba Fett, but the reason I had a problem with it is because of the math. You see, Cad Bane is a part of the Duros species, and originally, they might be retconning this now, Duros usually lived to around 75 years old, and Cad Bane was 50 at the start of the Clone Wars, already pretty high up there for a Duros, which means he would be around 82 by this time. Now, that would make him not only older than most of his species' life expectancy, but even if he was alive, according to the original canon of the Duros species, he'd be living on ventilators. But it seems he's just as spry as he was in the Clone Wars, maybe a little less. But I'm sure they've just retconned the Duros species and Cad Bane can live for a lot longer, maybe even the species as a whole. But some interesting things come about with Cad Bane. You see, Cad Bane was losing his edge when we saw him in the Bad Batch, which is around 20 years before this time, and he lost his edge to Fennec Shand. Now, Cad Bane does say that he's working for the Pike Syndicate, and that he's against Boba Fett. And we do know from a deleted Clone Wars arc that he has a grudge against Boba Fett. They weren't exactly the closest friends. And we know that Fennec Shand is working for Boba Fett, so maybe this grudge is doubled. He wants to get back at both Fennec Shand and Boba Fett. But another thing's interesting. He also mentioned that Boba Fett was a murderer, and that he worked for the Empire. This is a bit weird. Cad Bane has never been a stranger to senseless murder. I mean, he blew up an entire Senate building with senators still inside, when he completely didn't have to. But this raises an interesting question, and it explains a few things. Cad Bane didn't work for the Empire. Now, to me, that just doesn't make sense. The Empire was the greatest presence in the galaxy. He's worked for the head of the Empire, the Emperor, before he was even the Emperor. So, to him, a job is just a job. Why would he pick sides? I'm sure we'll get answers in all due time, but for now it just doesn't make sense. Did Cad Bane have a story arc off screen? I don't think so, because he just shot up the sheriff and the deputy. So it's a little bit strange. I also want to talk about the possibility that Cad Bane is not the only bounty hunter that the Pike Syndicate has hired. Because at this point, come on, Boba Fett's got, well, himself, Boba Fett, Fennec Shand, the Black Chrysanthemum, and now Mando. Cad Bane can't take all 4 of them. Heck, he could barely take on one of them right now, I'm sure. So what other bounty hunters might be joining the Pike Syndicate? Well, a fan favorite of mine as well is Embo from the Clone Wars series, and I would love to see him make an appearance, especially if they're bringing Cad Bane into live action. Embo was the second greatest bounty hunter next to Cad Bane during the Clone Wars, and quickly became a fan favorite because of his unconventional use of weaponry. He didn't rely on technology or any fancy gadgets, just a helmet and a crossbow. That's all he needed. So they might be bringing him back to join the Pikes. But another strong possibility is Boss. We explored this in the 4th episode of the Book of Boba Fett, where we see Black Chrysanthemum beat up and literally rip the arms off of a Trandoshan, the same species as Boss. Now, for those of you who don't know, a quick history lesson here, Wookiees and Trandoshans don't have a very good history. Trandoshans would hunt Wookiees all the time, which is why they have a very poor relationship today, and it's probably why Black Chrysanthemum got all angry when he saw them all happy and gambling. So if Bosk is fighting for the other side, that'll definitely get Chrysanthemum all riled up. And Bosk would be keen on hunting a Wookiee once again. Now, some other associates of Cad Bane included Aurra Sing and some pirates that joined Cad Bane's bounty hunter gang when he went to free the criminal Zero the Hutt in the Clone Wars TV series, but Aurra Sing has been confirmed dead by Lando. Lando said that he killed her in Solo: A Star Wars Story, so unfortunately, I don't think we'll be seeing from her unless Lando was bluffing. But before I move on, I do want to talk about Cad Bane's character design. Now, from afar, he looked awesome. When I saw Cad Bane approaching, I freaked out. This was almost too much fan service in one episode. But he looked really cool, and the voice actor is incredible. I don't know if it's the same one from the Clone Wars, I didn't check, but it sounds awesome. And they got his mannerisms down to a T. But a few nitpicks I have for his character design. Now, I heard some people saying that they didn't like how his eyes were too big, but his eyes were always big, even in the Clone Wars. That wasn't my nitpick. My nitpick was with the color of his skin.
That was sus.
No, calm down. That's not. I'm talking about how in the Clone Wars it seemed to be a lot darker of a shade of blue. This Cad Bane seems to be a bit lighter. Now, maybe it's just because he's in the sun, maybe he's on Tatooine, the background is flushing him out a little bit, but I really hope that if he's in a darker environment, that his skin is a deeper blue, because that's the Cad Bane that I really know.
I'd be careful where I was sticking my nose if I were you.
But I do think that they did a very good job with Cad Bane. And even though he shot Cobb Vanth, and he usually shoots to kill, I have a feeling this one was more of a warning shot. He definitely killed the deputy. He shot him 3 times. But Cobb Vanth only got 1 shot, and I have a feeling that's on purpose. He wants to send a message. He doesn't just want to senselessly kill. He knows that the people of Freedom Town love Cobb Vanth, and that he's a good marshal. So he just wants to scare them, and he wants Cobb Vanth to stay out of the way. And I think that with these new revelations, Cobb Vanth will opt to stay out of the way. At the end of the day, he values his people over a spice war. But then, what's next for Boba Fett? He still needs foot soldiers. Well, I have an idea. Mando said that he knew how to find these people from Freedom Town because he fought with them when they fought against the Krayt Dragon. But those aren't the only people that helped fight against the Krayt Dragon. There were also the Tusken Raiders. Now, these Tusken Raiders are from a different tribe from the one that helped Boba. So maybe Mando can go find them, since he does know how to communicate with them, and they would recognize him. Maybe he could bring the Tusken Raiders to be the foot soldiers, and then Boba Fett would be able to connect with them because of his history with his Tusken tribe. And that, I think, would be a very beautiful thing. But with that, what did you think of this new Book of Boba Fett? I know a lot of people are having trouble with the new Boba Fett, and I am too. He's a bit soft for my liking. But hopefully Jon Favreau and the rest of the team will learn from their mistakes and beef him up a little in the next season, since this season is coming to a close. Please like and subscribe if you like this video, and turn on that notifications bell so that you are reminded of all of my upcoming videos. Please check the link in the description to follow me on Discord. We have a lot of memes, and you'll always be notified of upcoming videos, live streams, premieres, anything you want. And you could also talk to me directly. Give me ideas for theories. I'm always listening. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you nerds in the next video. Nerd out.